Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Yasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Mishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajika Jaja Shudra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhai Charan Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayo Mishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajika Jaja Shudra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Go Premanandi all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories, Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, 39, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This morning, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th Canto, Chapter 13, titled The Behavior of a Perfect Person. Well, according to the Bible, all have fallen short of the glory of God. So we accept that also. Cheto Chetanam, Chetana, was it Cheto Chetanam? Krishna, we're no, Krishna, we're all, because we're jivas. Of course we're all fallen short of the glory of God. We're not Mayavadis. That's an anti-Mayavadi statement in the Bible. We've all fallen short of the glory of God. There you go. They're personalists. This is, Glory to be to God. On high. Like that. So this is text 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Let's have that door open just a bit, please. Let some air in here. Jalam tad ubhavai chanam hitvagyo jala kamyaya mrigatrishnan upadhavayat tatan yatararta drik swataha jalam tarupayaschanam Hidvangyo jalakam yaya mrigatrishnan upadhavyat tatanyatrarta driksvataha jalam tarupayaschanam hitvagyo jalakam yaya Mrigatrishnan upadhayavet vet tatanyatrarta driksvataha jalam tarupayaschanam hritvagyo jalakam yaya mrigatrishnan upadhavet tatanyatrarta driksvataha. Anyone like to chant? Anyone else? On behalf of all the ladies in ISKCON, would you like to chant? Okay, word for word. Jalam, water. Tad ubhavai, by grass grown from that water. Channam, covered. Hitva, giving up. Agya, a foolish animal. Jala kamyaya, desiring to drink water. Mrigatishnan, a mirage. Upadhavet, runs after. Tata, similarly. Anyatra, somewhere else. Artadrik, self-interested. Swataha, in himself. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Just as a deer, because of ignorance, cannot see the water within a well covered by grass, but runs after water elsewhere, the living entity covered by the material body does not see the happiness within himself, but runs after happiness in the material world. Purport. This is an accurate example depicting how the living entity, because of lack of knowledge, runs after happiness outside his own self. When one understands his real identity as a spiritual being, he can understand the supreme spiritual being Krishna and the real happiness exchange between Krishna and oneself. It is very interesting to note how this verse points to the body's growth from the spirit soul. The modern materialistic scientist thinks that life grows from matter, but actually the fact is that matter grows from life. The life or the spiritual soul is compared here to water, from which clumps of matter grow in the form of grass. One who is ignorant of scientific knowledge of the spirit soul does not look inside the body to find happiness in the soul. Instead, he goes outside to search for happiness, just as a deer without knowledge of the water beneath the grass goes out to the desert to find water. The Krishna conscious movement is trying to remove the ignorance of misled human beings who are trying to find water outside the jurisdiction of life. Raso vai sa, rasoham apsukonteya. The taste of water is Krishna. To quench one's thirst, one must taste water by association with Krishna. This is the Vedic injunction. Om agyantimirandasya ginanjana salakaya chakshurun minidam nina taismai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobhistam stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati svapadandikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakapatarubhascha, Kripa Sindhu Vevacha, Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So by your good wishes, ardent prayers, I'll try to say a few things. Just as a deer, because of ignorance, cannot see the water within a well covered by grass, but runs after water elsewhere, the living entity covered by the material body does not see the happiness within himself, but runs after happiness in the material world. So where is happiness to be found? That's a big question. And it could be said that every moment of the day, that question is running through the mind of every single living entity, because living entity by nature is Satchidananda. That's our nature, is to be happy. So we're looking for it. Right? That's our nature, to be happy, and we're not finding it. In the spiritual world, no one's looking for happiness. You know why? They're already happy, right? If you're a millionaire, you're not really looking for $10 bills, are you? Of course, sometimes you are. They asked J. Paul Getty that question. Well, J. Paul Getty in his time was quite well-to-do, one of the richest men in the world. And they asked him, hey, J. Paul. I don't think they said, hey, J. Paul. It was an interview. But now that you're worth millions and millions of dollars, what are you going to do? You know what he said? Make another million. So it doesn't stop. Because actually the millions of dollars he had didn't make him happy. So he thought, maybe if I had another $1 million, I'd be happy. Right? And he gets that million, he thinks, well, maybe I have another one. It's like the deer here running. Keeps running and running, just running and running and running. But there's only one person who's really happy, and that's the self-realized soul. Actually, the devotee of Krishna was that Bhakti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Asanta. If you are not happy, you're not peaceful, right? Right? Shanta means peaceful. You're peaceful. Yeah, everything's good. Pushti tushti, right? After Ramapati cooks a lunch and everyone sits there, very nice. Everyone's feeling very, very satisfied. Ramapati or Priya cooks. She's cooking tomorrow. Rajbhog. So nice prasadam. You are happy and you are shanti. You're very, very peaceful. But this verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Bhakti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Asanta. They're never happy. The Bhakti, the Mukti, and the Siddhi. Who are those? They're like, Bhaktas used to live here or something? Who's Bhakti Mukti in city? We should probably do a play like that. Yeah, the kami means desiring. So the bhukti means someone who's interested in enjoying in this material world. Mukti means, I've had it. I'm out of here. This material world is a horrible place. I just want to get out. I just want to get out. I just want to get out. The desire to get out. Mukti. Mukti. Siddhi means the yogi who's looking for mystic perfections. Even, we'll read a little about, we'll get to the Chaitanya, teachings of the Lord Chaitanya. So the yogi sometimes trying to become one with the super soul in the heart. But it says, asanta, they're never peaceful. Because these things can't satisfy the soul. The urge for happiness, is it coming from the body? No. We think it is. Oh, my tongue is going, blah, 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 I want something delicious to eat. My eyes, I want to see something. But actually it's not coming from the senses because they're dull. So is it coming from the mind? Ultimately not. Or the intelligence? No. Actually it's coming from the soul, which is activating these things. And these are like filters through which we enjoy the material world in its different subtle and gross forms. But it's not really coming from these sources at all. It's just matter, dead matter. So it's coming from the soul, so these things can't satisfy the soul. Bhukti, mukti, siddhi, they can't. It's an illusory endeavor. It's Maya means come on, come on, come on, but there's really nothing there. Have you ever been tricked? Have you ever been tricked by someone? Made a fool of? Like that. I remember the very first thing I can remember being fooled when I was a kid. I had 3 brothers, and that says enough right there. And my older brother said, hey, listen, you got a dime there. Let me give you this nickel. It's bigger. It must be worth more because it's bigger, right? So, oh, yeah, yeah. I gave him the dime. He gave me a nickel. I told my mom. She goes, what? He got in trouble. But he tricked me. You know, I was a fool, thinking that's it. So everyone in the material world is getting fooled, and it's just been going on for a long time. That's why we read these verses and we think, that's right, that's very intelligent, but we can't stop. We just can't stop because of conditioning. We're conditioned souls. And the conditioning, just like they say, how long does it take to develop a good habit? There's actually a certain number of days.
21.
Close?
30 days.
No. It's actually 20 days. 20 days. You're working on something, maybe it's your eating problem or exercise or getting up earlier or, you know, keeping a journal. 20 days, you do it for 20 days, you pretty much, it'll stick with you. But the problem with our conditioning is it's not just this lifetime. We have conditioning going back millions, if not billions of lifetimes. Mahabharata was telling me the other day, I was listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was talking about the chanting and prasadam, and he said, this will save you from billions of rebirths. Not 5 or 10 or 100 or 1,000 or even 1,000,000, but billions of rebirths. The pure, I think it was maybe the pure chanting. I forget what it was, but the point Prabhupada was saying, billions. It will save you from billions of rebirths. Sounds like a great deal. So the point is, you do something over and over again, 20 days, you get a good habit. How about you do something for 20 million lifetimes? It's going to get ingrained in the consciousness. So it's not an easy thing to adjust this search for happiness. And that is the great mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, I just want to reference one, because when it talked about looking, the deer is looking somewhere for happiness. Where to look? Where are you going to find happiness? At Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami. But the other one is, how does the verse continue? Yeah, Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ataheva Santa. Only the Krishna Bhakta is happy. And there's a story here, reference Madhvacharya. From Madhvacharya, in his commentary, let's see if I can find, it's the wise man, that's the chapter. There we go, 65. And you can look this up. This is from the teachings of Lord Rishabdev, and this is a commentary by Madhvacharya. And I'll give you these verses because I looked them up, and this is Lord Rishabdev. It's a few verses together. It's his complete teachings, practically his complete teachings, and it's, let's see, here it is. Yes, 5.10 through 13. If you look that up, it's like everything's right there. I'm not sure. He just good advice, all in one after next, after next, after next, after next. So it says here, this is a story told about an astrologer giving someone some good advice. What happened was a person went to an astrologer, a poor man. He went to the astrologer, and the astrologer said, I don't understand what's going on here. According to this chart here, you're supposed to be very, very rich. Something's going on here. Let's dig a little deeper. Just like I went to an astrologer once, and he said, it was Nalini Kanta. He said, is your father dead? I said, no. He said, that's very strange. According to your chart, your father should be dead. He said, you must be maintaining him by your Krishna consciousness, keeping him alive. That's what he said. Because his chart, I'm surprised he's still alive. So astrologers find things. So this astrologer said, well, let's take a look at this. He's a good astrologer. He said, you know something? Your father was actually very, very wealthy, but because he died in a foreign land, he never got a chance to tell you where he buried all of his treasure. Previously, people used to bury their treasure. There weren't big banks and investment funds and this, that, and the other thing. So they would, do people still do that? Do you do that? Do you do that? You got your treasure buried somewhere in your... Still? Wow. Long ago, and just like someone was just telling me, they're recounting that they just found all that treasure in the Padmanabha Swami temple there. They found those old rooms, and they opened it up, and there's billions of dollars worth of treasure, right? Padmanabha Swami's inner chambers, from going back in the British days and way, way, way back. And it's like they got a lot of guards there now. Billions of dollars worth of treasure, they found it. No, Padmanabha Swami in South India. Yeah, in Kerala. So after class, I tell you my story about trying to have darshan with those deities. And I couldn't get to see the king that day because he had a fight with his wife. So anyways. So it says here that he says, from your horoscope, I can see that you have a hidden treasure left to you by your father. Wow. However, the horoscope indicates your father couldn't tell you where it is. So anyways, he buried it at the house. And the astrologer said, if you can search out this treasure, you're going to be so happy. It's more money than you can spend in your entire lifetime. And he says, I'll skip ahead and come back around here. The astrologer told the man, don't dig on the southern side of your house. Don't dig there, outside on the southern side, to find the treasure. If you do so, you'll be attacked by a poisonous wasp and will be baffled in your efforts to find the treasure. He said, search on the eastern side, where there's actual light, and that's compared to devotional service or Krishna consciousness. On the southern side, where the wasp is, that's compared to Vedic rituals, following the karma kanda section of just trying to enjoy in this mature world, even in a pious way. You never really find happiness there. That's compared to a wasp, just giving trouble, trying to follow all those rules and regulations. And what happens anyways? You die and you can't take anything with you. So in here, he's talking about different sides not to dig. The southern side, don't dig. The western side, said don't dig there. That's mental speculation. Impersonalism, and then the northern side is meditational yoga. This is what we just talked about, bhukti, mukti, siddhi. Those are the three sides you don't dig on, the southern side, the western side, and the northern side. One of these sides is compared to a big black snake which will swallow you or bite you, right? And the other one says a yaksha is guarding that and simply harass you. So more or less what he's saying through this story is what we just brought up before. If you want to find happiness, the real treasure in life, don't look to bhukti, mukti, and siddhi. Don't look to these things. Dig on the eastern side, which is where the sun rises, and that's where you'll find your father's treasure. So the astrologer gave good advice that one should look for devotional service. You look anywhere else, you're not going to find happiness. What's the name of the big book, the book you distribute on Sankirtan about happiness? Yes, Hiding an Unnatural Happiness. If you read and study that book. So it's all there. It's all there. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, there's two places in the Gita where Arjuna and Krishna having a discussion about a transcendentalist. What are they like? A spiritual person. Because here we find that the materialistic people are looking for happiness in the wrong place. So if you meet someone who's found happiness in the right place, what are they like? Are they any different? Very, very peaceful. And the first one is in the second chapter. Arjuna asked that question. Just bring it up here. So Arjuna says, "Oh Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk?" And Krishna says, "O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire," this is exactly what the verse is today, "gives up all varieties of desires for sense gratification which arise from mental concoction." Where does it come from? Right. What's mental concoction? What's speculation? There it is. Make it up. You're making it up. Just like, all right. "And when his mind thus purified finds satisfaction in the self alone, he is then said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind." Stita D. Like that. So it goes on to a few verses here. But that's a symptom, Krishna is saying right off the bat. He didn't say, oh, someone who's rolling on the floor in ecstasy, crying tears, and, No, he's explaining this is the symptom of a transcendentalist. He's just no longer interested in this material world because he's found happiness somewhere else. He's found the real happiness. He's found the real thing. And also later on the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, I'm just trying to show you that everything is confirmed by Krishna. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to state my case, state Krishna's case. Here it is. Later on, near the end of the Bhagavad Gita. So he's saying, "O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection, the perfection of Krishna consciousness, can attain the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize." So here's the verse. There's actually a few verses. It says, "Being purified by his intelligence and controlling his mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a sacred place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance, who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful, such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization." And this Brahmabhuta Prasanatma verse, we'll end with that. "One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service to me." Just listening to a lecture the other day by Bir Krishna Maharaj was giving a summary of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he was talking about the Brahmin. He started speaking about the Brahmin who gave Gopakumar his mantra, the Krishna mantra. And he was saying he was there in Vrindavan, and he was always crying. The cowherd boy saw him, because Gopakumar is there at Govardhan and so on. There's this Brahmin who was always around in the bank of the Jamuna and this and that. Very, very nice, very safe, always crying. And he's very friendly with the cowherd boys, patting him on the head and they give him milk, but he's always crying. Why was he crying? Because he was in such ecstasy, so happy, he was crying all the time. He was so happy in Krishna consciousness. That's called bhava, ecstasy. He was actually crying. Can you imagine being so happy, Sankarshan, all day long you're crying? You're just so happy. Just tears are coming from your eyes. You're so happy to be here, so happy to be in charge of the kitchen, so happy, 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 just to be here in love with Krishna, just crying. Was it Gaur Govinda Maharaj, that saying about our temples, or something like, well, he said crying. No, there's a crying one. Crying club, crying school, like that. So actually, we should all be here crying. You should be crying. We should all just be sitting here crying in ecstasy. That's a Bhagavatam class. I'm waiting to attend one of those. No, I actually, not like, when I was a Bhakti director, we had this Bhakta Bob. I got all kinds of Bhakta stories for you. But I remember sitting right over there about where Balaram was, and he'd be sitting there crying. I said, Bhakta Bob, what's going on? He said, Prabhupada said, when you chant Hare Krishna, you should cry like a baby. So he'd just go, and he cries. That's how he chanted his japa. So we had a little talk with him. But, so you can't fake it. But Prabhupada said you should cry like a baby for his mother. So he was sitting over there crying. Yeah, it should come naturally. So the Brahmin was just crying in ecstasy. He was so happy, so happy. So that's happiness. That's what we're looking for. Sometimes in the material world, people cry out of happiness, but it's short-lived. Excuse me. Some wonderful thing happens, or this or that, and so happy to see you, or this or that. But it's not perpetual ecstasy coming from the soul. So, but this is that's Krishna consciousness. What is the verse in the Shikshastakam? Nayanam galada shudaraya vadanam gadgada vrudaya. Like that, gira. So what is tears are coming from the eyes.
I'll give you the
oh, you got
tears streaming from my eyes. My voice choked with bliss. The hairs upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns?
Govinda Vidahiname. So that's chanting. That's chanting. And that's because we're actually in touch. What it says here in the purport, you're in touch with Krishna, who's the reservoir of all pleasure. And there's no happiness like that in the material world, where you're crying and you're just torrents of tears, and you're choking up. Your voice is choking up because you have happiness, and your hairs on your body are standing on end. That's japa. That's kirtan, like that. So we got to work on it. We got to work on it. I have to work on it. So that's what's being described here. But why in the world can't we just accept that? That's our conditioning. That's the point. Unfortunately, we're conditioned souls, and it's a very, very deep conditioning. But don't lose heart. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most merciful incarnation. He's given a process that even though we've been going in the wrong direction for millions, maybe billions of lifetimes, all of that can be turned around even in one lifetime. That's the potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. He is Patita Pavana, like that. The most merciful incarnation, because he's given a process to turn our whole material existence around very, very quickly and go back home, back to Godhead. So that should bring tears to our eyes. How merciful is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? How merciful. There's no one most samopitita pavana. There's no one more merciful like that. So, anything else I wanted to bring up? I can end with one quote, if you like, from Famous Amos. Famous Amos. Does anyone here? Is it before your time? I heard they're still out there. Famous Amos chocolate chip cookies. And the gentleman who started, his name was Amos. Famous Amos, that's what they called him. And he had one quote in his life he became famous for, besides the cookies. He said, happiness is an inside job. An inside job. And that's our philosophy too. Happiness comes from within. It comes from the soul. Doesn't come from anything exterior. Real happiness is from inside. And just like the deer, just stop and look. Just stop and look. The water's right there. Don't go running off somewhere else. It's all right here. So we have to pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to help us have the patience and enthusiasm and determination to just purify our heart of all these anarthas, attachments and fears that keep us from understanding where real happiness is. And join in the chanting of Hare Krishna. Good japa and ecstatic kirtans. The process of Krishna consciousness will give us gradually more and more taste. It is so powerful, it can actually cut through millions of lifetimes of conditioning. There's no other process like that. The process of yoga, the process of jnana, all these things, or let alone karma kanda, that's even if you do it right, many hundreds of lifetimes you gradually get elevated and become pious. And so this is the process. We're so very, very fortunate. So I'll end with that. Is that okay? So, any questions or comments or reprimands?
No question, no reprimand. But I have a comment.
Oh, I got away with that one.
This one's for you because most of the devotees were here when Maharaj gave his class. You mentioned how your older brother would tease you somehow, right?
Well, all my brothers. Even my younger brother was bigger than me.
Even your younger brother. And he used to tease you too?
Yeah.
Bhajan Ramanuj mentions that his brother would tease him, and this was a serious tease. He convinced little Badri that little Bob,
okay,
that if he put on the cape like Superman, and he had his hands positioned rightly, and he jumped off the roof of their house, which wasn't that high, but it was high.
Single. Okay.
That he could fly if he did it just right. And little Bobby, he tried it, and he went in and he broke both arms. Can you imagine?
Brotherly love. Wow.
That's that's what the material energy is doing. It's tricking us into going, trying to get pleasure in a room.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Everything's good? Okay, so we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.